Welcome to my Senate prediction for July, so let's start. And there we go, so let's go over the updates. In California, I am quite interested to see what happens here because of the Adam Schiff situation and him being censured. It's basically either Schiff or Porter, so perhaps he's gonna get more donors and that could see him get a boost in the polls for the Democratic primary, while for the other ones, let's go to Indiana, where things are looking quite splendid for Jim Banks, and he's probably going to become the next senator of Indiana because he's going to win easily the primary, and Joe Donnelly, he officially rejected any chance of him running for his former Senate seat, and yeah, I mean, Indiana is almost surely going to be a victory for Jim Banks. And now for the other ones in Delaware and Maryland. For Delaware, firstly, so in this state, or race I should say, we have a retiring incumbent, that being Tom Carper, and he has really paved the path for Lisa Blunt Rochester to take over his seat, and even he endorsed her, so and also Chuck Schumer endorsed her, so yeah, I mean, she basically is gonna be the next senator from this state and the first African-American woman to take this seat. And for, let's go to Maryland. I'm not too sure about Maryland. I think I'm gonna pretty much guess that also Brooks will become and will succeed Ben Cardin. I think Cardin did not endorse or something. I don't know. Did he? I mean, he declined to endorse, but I've seen some polls outside of Wikipedia that does show also Brooks doing well in the primary, although there's not that many polls, and yeah, it just seems like she's getting the most donations and the most momentum. And that's really it for the safe states. So let's go to the likely states, and let's just begin with a state that I'm kinda not sure what will happen for, New Jersey. Bob Menendez, it does seem like he will run. He hasn't officially declared yet. As always, there's always some form of scandal happening with him, so I think he's gonna underperform Biden by a decent margin, but still, it shouldn't affect him that much. He's gonna win here by, I don't know, like 10-11% if I had to make a guess. But yeah, let's just move on to two quick election analysis. So in Virginia, it's Tim Kaine against one of the Republicans. No updates in this state, but it does look like it's gonna be a likely victory for Tim Kaine, the incumbent there. I'm not too sure what the margin will be. It could be maybe like, I'm just gonna say like 7 to 9% for now. And let's move on to New Mexico. Yep, New Mexico with Heinrich. If it shows, yeah, finally. So there's Heinrich, and oh, I didn't. Last time I checked, there was no Libertarian part before. That's gonna make things a bit more interesting, because back in 2018, if you look at it, Gary Johnson was on the ballot and actually ran for Senate, but I think we might have that happen yet again. And I'm just gonna say basic, generic margin of 7 to 9% victory for him in New Mexico, so yeah. And finally, for a more interesting race, let's go to Pennsylvania. So in Pennsylvania, there is finally a big update, so if you saw at the start, it's not safe D like it was in my last prediction for May. Yeah, so in this one, we officially know that where is he at? Doug Mastriano has officially declined the nomination or any chance of him running in 2024, and he's focusing on more statewide stuff and more convention sort of thing, really. And that basically leaves the nomination for David McCormick. There is maybe like Garrity. I don't think Oz runs. Why is Oz back on the menu though? Why is he back there? I mean, I think it's gonna be McCormick who's gonna get the nomination. Even McConnell endorsed him, but yeah, I mean, for the GOP, I guess it's good news that Mastriano's not gonna be the nominee because they would have lost by a decent margin, and yeah, McConnell knew this. But still, it's going to be a likely victory for Bob Casey Jr. I'm not sure what that margin would entail, but I'm gonna say it's gonna be like a 6 to 8% victory. I think he has a lot of popularity and incumbency advantage, and that he should do well. And I think that with Trump winning the nomination, that's gonna hurt a lot of Republicans in the Senate. And let's go to West Virginia. So West Virginia, it's basically who's going to be the next senator. And Jim Justice running is really killed off a lot of chances of Joe Manchin somehow being able to win re-election. He has not yet made a decision. There's a lot of pathways for him. He could run for I think he declined that. He could run for president as well. I think the No Labels Party has come to him and tried to persuade him to run for president in 2024. And for the GOP primary, since I'm here, Jim Justice, Alex Mooney. Let's see if there's any polling recently, and there isn't. But I mean, Jim Justice is such a popular governor in West Virginia. He should win here by a likely margin, perhaps even a safe margin. But I'm gonna say he's gonna win here by a margin of 6 to 8%, and yeah, that kills off any chances of if Justice is the nominee, it almost surely kills off any chances of Manchin winning re-election. And now, let's go to Michigan. So Michigan, last time I checked, there hasn't been any new updates in Michigan, but Slotkin, she has the endorsement of the establishment and people like where there's of Chuck Schumer, and almost everyone is endorsing Slotkin. There's a lot of minor nominees here, but yeah. Well, for the Republicans, I don't think there has been any major changes. It's basically all these people right here. We're just waiting to see if James Craig, Huizenga, or McLean, or Johnson, or Meyer jump onto the race. There's no polling on Wikipedia yet, but it does look like if Slotkin just runs an okay campaign, she's gonna win here by a likely margin. I think she wins here by 5 to 7%, barely a likely margin, but the Michigan GOP is quite weak, so that helps her quite a lot. And now, let me see. Let's move on from the Rust Belt for a second, and let's go to Florida, because there is a bit of a small update, not that big, but still. Rick Scott is yeah, his campaign team did say that he's running for re-election. There was a bit of a rumor for a couple days that he may run for president, but it does seem like that was just not real. And Rick Scott, not that much. He's gonna be the nominee almost surely. Well, for the Democrats, there is a new one. That's Alan Grayson, who was the former representative, I think, of the the 9th district right there. And that's really about it for Florida. Let me see if there's any more polling recently, and there isn't. There's some independent candidates that you could see. Rick Scott has gotten lucky in the past, barely winning his elections, but unless we see a major update with a major candidate, like let's see, we're talking about someone like Gwen Graham or Dwayne Wade or Stephanie Murphy. Those really are the only ones that could make Florida lean R, but for now it's going to be a likely R victory for Rick Scott by 5 to 7%. And now let's go to Wisconsin. So Wisconsin, sorry, I got a cough at the moment. So Wisconsin, Tammy Baldwin running for re-election, as many of you know. Well, for the Republican Party, we did have a big update in Wisconsin, because Mike Gallagher, who was really ahead in most polling in this race and primary, he declined to run for Senate, and he's gonna focus on his House committee stuff. So that basically leaves off the nomination in the GOP to either David Clark, former Democrat, but really, I mean, he's not really like Democrat right now. He's the opposite. He's very Trumpy, quite similar to people like Mastriano, Carrie Lake, kind of like really Trumpy fans. Well, and there's Tiffany, who is the more moderate candidate. And here's where I want to see how the Trump endorsement affects the race, because we could see something like that happen. Because if the polling there's no polling here, but I did see on Twitter that Tom Tiffany was leading by I think it was like, I don't know, I can't remember from the top of my head, but it was like 20% or 20, 30, 40% ahead of David Clark, who was at like 17 to 20. And if Trump endorses David Clark, I do think he could get the nomination. That'd be really a horrible sign for the Wisconsin GOP. But for now, I do have Tiffany winning the GOP nomination, but it ain't gonna matter because Gallagher was really the only one that could have made it close, in my opinion. And I have this race going for Tammy Baldwin now by a likely margin of 5 to 7%, which is one of the updates in this video alongside Pennsylvania. And let's go to the next one. Oh wait, that's it for the likely states, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's it for the likely states. So let's go to the lean states. For Texas, yeah, why not? That was a long pause by me. So for Texas, Ted Cruz, he's doing quite well at pivoting. I mean, it's almost not a year and a half, but a year and 3 months, and he's already pivoting to the center. He knows a lot about politics, and he knows that Trump is gonna underperform quite a lot in Texas, but still, it's likely gonna be all red versus Ted Cruz. There's really no other updates, and there's some polling from mid to late May, but yeah, there's not that much apart from that. And yeah, for Ted Cruz to lose re-election, it would take a lot for him to lose, because that would almost surely mean that in the presidential level, Trump would lose the state by a tilt margin. And even then, I think Ted Cruz outperforms Trump by like 2 to 3%, and probably like 1 to 3% at most. So yeah, it's gonna be really tough for Democrats and all red to defeat, but I mean not Beto O'Rourke, I mean Ted Cruz in 2024. So yeah, it's gonna be really tough, and I have Ted Cruz winning here by a lean margin of 2 to 4%. Really, I think he's gonna win here by like 3%. But as long as Trump doesn't lose Texas by a lean margin, I think Ted Cruz still wins re-election. But if Trump somehow loses Texas by 2-3%, then I think Ted Cruz goes with him. But still, should be an okay victory for Ted Cruz currently. And now let's go to Nevada. Why not? So Nevada, if I'm not mistaken, there hasn't been any new things. It's been quite quiet in politics in the last couple of months. You haven't noticed yet. Yeah, it's quite quiet. So Jim Marchant, very Trumpy nominee, probably loses by a likely margin. No new updates from Brown, Gilbert, or Harrison, but now Jeffrey Russ Gunter, another mediocre candidate that somehow had a scandalous time in office, even though he was just an ambassador to Iceland. I mean, he had a controversial tenure. So another C, D, or I should say maybe F tier candidate for the GOP. And I think, I mean, there's some polling here from mid to late May, and it's looking quite good for the Democrats in Nevada. In the Senate level, I think the only way they should worry is maybe like the presidential level, but I do have Jackie Rosen winning re-election by basically 2 to 4. I mean, I think I had 3 to 5% last time. And I'm gonna stick with what I said last time, 3 to 5%, because there hasn't been any good updates for the GOP. And now for Arizona, last time in my last video, I basically talked about how Carrie Lake has a bigger chance of running it for Senate, although I wouldn't be surprised if Trump picks Carrie Lake as his VP. So candidates, Gallego, For Republicans, Mark Lamb, there's basically the same Trumpy nominees running. Let's see if there's any polling, and there isn't. And like I said, it's either gonna be Carrie Lake, Lamb, Masters, Andy Biggs, and all of them are really quite poor candidates that really don't suit or fit Arizona, and that's why I do have Gallego winning here by a lean margin of 1 to 3%. So yeah, it's looking good, but there's really no good GOP nominees in many swing states. That's really gonna hurt them quite a lot. And let's go to Montana. In Montana, the GOP in Montana is really quite poor when you think about it in many ways. Let's go to the Republican primary. So not that long ago, Rosendale has basically said to a lot of his friends, colleagues, and just people around him that he is intending to run for Senate. He hasn't declared yet, but he's gonna run yet again. And if you didn't know, back in 2018, he was the Republican candidate who lost, actually, against Tester in the 2018 Blue Wave year. And let's see if there's any polling. There isn't. And I think Democrats are gonna get a Libertarian to run, or help him get to the ballot, which is gonna help him quite a lot. So perhaps this could be a lean D. But because it's a presidential year, it's gonna be a tough one. But still, Tester's quite approved of. He's quite popular as well, and I have him winning here by 0.5%. And yeah, Democrats have won Montana. Now for Ohio, Ohio is really interesting. We haven't seen that many updates in Ohio, but it's one of those to look out for because of the trends alongside the incumbency advantage. It's kind of like quite an even battlefield for both parties in some ways. Sherrod Brown's running, and the main one is who's going to be the GOP nominee. We know that Jim Jordan could run, although I think he stays in the House. There's also Davidson, who declined. Ramaswamy, I mean, he's really one of those guys that I wouldn't be surprised if he just drops out from the presidential race and just jumps into the Senate race. That could very well happen, but currently it's basically, the primary is basically Moreno versus LaRose. Right now, there isn't much polling right now, but I'm looking at the economy and everything going around in politics, and it's just not looking good for Republicans in many ways. It just seems like the coalition is quite, I mean, to be honest with you, it's quite ineffective. And yeah, it's just quite an interesting time to look at in politics. Usually this would be an easy map for the Republicans to retake the Senate, but the coalitions are simply not there. And I have Sherrod Brown barely winning, oh, sorry, I just hit the mic, barely winning re-election by 8 margin. I'm not too sure who the nominee will be, but it's gonna be a really close race where the Democrats are gonna put a lot of money, and they're probably gonna go for a lot of the suburban voters, and that's where I see the Republicans really doing terribly in, and those voters are quite reliable. And yeah, as you can see, I still have the Democrats barely retaining the Senate, with them winning 50 seats, while the Republicans get 50 seats as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video.